So I was in desperate need of a girls trip, so I hit up my 3 friends that were outside of my state, Maggie, Sarah, and Amber. All fake names, obviously. I made plans and arrangements so that I could come visit them. Another friend of mine that knew them offered to drive me down. His name was Max. I was super thankful for this because my family didn't want me to drive there by myself. I made sure they had his and my number before I took off. But the second that I got into the car, I had a really weird gut feeling. My stomach started to turn, but I didn't listen to it. I kept messaging my friends how excited I was to see them the closer I got, but then they just stopped messaging me. They wouldn't answer my calls either, and Max pulled me over to a gas station saying that we're about 30 minutes away from our destination. So I thought. I needed a bathroom break, so I went inside the gas station, but that's when Max took me by the arm and walked in with me. He wouldn't let me leave his side, even for a bathroom break, and that's when he took my cell phone away, and I knew that I was in trouble. I still didn't say anything out of fear, but after we got back into the car, he gave me some juice, and then I passed out. Stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on Instagram. Storytime part 2, I was kidnapped by someone I thought was my friend. So after drinking whatever he gave me, I woke up after a few hours, and I was not with my girlfriends. I was 3 hours away from my home, and I didn't know this at the time, but I was at his house. My family knew that they hadn't heard from me in hours and started to get worried. They tried to get a hold of me, but obviously couldn't because I didn't have my cell phone. So they called Max. And I literally watched this man answer his phone and say that he didn't know me and doesn't know what they're talking about. Almost immediately after this happened, the cops called him. And I have no idea to this day what the cops said to him, but whatever they did, it worked. He helped bring me back to my house safely. And come to find out, Sarah, Amber, and Maggie were all in on it. They knew that he was obsessed with me and planned it so that I would spend the weekend with him instead of them. We pressed charges, but he really only got a slap on the wrist, but he's not allowed within 50 feet of me or to live in the same town or city as I am. Even though this happened when I was 18, it still haunts me at 28. Please speak up if you feel like something is wrong. Follow me on Instagram and DM me your story just like this one. Story time. I found out my boyfriend cheated on me with his aunt. So this guy that I had a really big crush on at my school had just recently broken up with his girlfriend. And so I was kind of just there to comfort him and be a shoulder to cry on. You know the drill. Pretty soon he asked me to be his girlfriend. We dated for a total of 6 or 7 months. And during this time, it was kind of insane with the gaslighting and how controlling he would get with me. He would literally say that he would kill himself if I ever left him. And I had been around his aunt a few times and gotten a weird vibe, but nothing super significant. But one morning, around the end of our 7th month mark, I woke up to so many missed texts and calls from his younger brother, with text and picture proof of him sleeping with his aunt. After all of this, I confronted him and he still denied it, even with the proof. I just asked him how he could ever do something like that to me. And then he admitted to it, but said that it wasn't cheating. We were officially over after that. I messaged him to check on him one time, and he responded with, "I never loved you, please stay blocked." If you want to know where I got this jewelry from, check out Interstellar Jewelry, linked below. And if you have a story that you would like to share too, add me and DM me on Instagram. Story time. My boyfriend tried to kill me so he could have my life insurance money. So I decided to go on Tinder to look for some potential matches. And lo and behold, a guy named Jared was there. He was adorable, he was charming, and we had multiple cell phone calls before deciding to meet. We met at Red Lobster, and it was like fireworks. He was so romantic and looked like a 6-foot-something cowboy. He took me to a wildlife bird refuge after dinner, and I instantly fell for him. We dated for months, and everything was mostly good. However, he was just very pressuring for things. And I didn't want to take things too fast. I was 21 and he was 31. Eventually, this just gave me some bad vibes, so I decided to cut off the relationship. But a few months later, he called me saying that he couldn't forget me. He had been married before and his wife had passed away, so I felt very sympathetic towards him. He had a really nice job, making over $150K a year, and he said that all he wanted to do was take care of me and my child. So I moved in and things were good again. I would wake up in the morning, he would make me coffee, and I would help him with his kids. But I noticed that my weight was starting to go down. And that's when I realized he was putting something in my coffee. Follow me on Insta and stay tuned for part 2. Part 2 to my boyfriend trying to kill me to get my life insurance money. I was not feeling very well and my parents were extremely worried about me, especially once they found out I only weighed 88 pounds. I knew I had to have been really ill, so my parents drove down 5 hours to rescue me, and I was immediately hospitalized. That's when I was able to put together the full story on what was going on. He started putting all the money that he was making into my bank account, but he didn't let me have access to it. He would take out loans in my name, making it look like I was making money. And my life insurance policy added to $500,000. During this time in the hospital, I was going through severe withdrawals from whatever he was putting into my coffee. But the second I stopped drinking it, I started to gain weight back. I was thinking that maybe he had done this to his previous wife. However, when I looked her up, I found out that she was still alive. They were just divorced. Later, I was able to find out that they even moved back in with each other. Make sure you don't ever get too blinded by love to realize that you're being taken advantage of. Follow me on Instagram, and if you have a story, DM me. Story time, how I catfished the girl that my brother-in-law was cheating with. So my brother-in-law always had a bit of a cheating reputation, and he definitely gave me the worst vibe. He had even cheated on my sister before, but they forgave each other and worked things out. Whatever. But I knew that something was up once rumors started to fly again. And so did my sister. And there was one particular girl on his phone that was very sus. So my sister got the number and we decided to set her up. We didn't really know how much she knew or if she was aware that he was married. So we just pretended to be him and asked her to come over. And since they had been hooking up, she was down to come over. So we sat and waited, and she walked in expecting to see my brother-in-law, but instead she got my sister and I. When I say she was shocked, I mean she was shocked. She wasn't furious or anything, however, she kept acting weird like it was all a big joke. She was like, oh my god, I had no idea he was married, which you can't blame her for everything, it takes two to tango. However, I still think you should be aware of who you're seeing. But she agreed to confront him with us. Follow me on Instagram and stay tuned for part 2. Part 2 on how I catfished the girl that my brother-in-law was cheating with. So he was still at the house, just hanging out upstairs, had no idea what was going on downstairs when we invited over the girl. And once she agreed to confront him, we decided to walk on upstairs. So she walked up and literally called this man by his first name. And he denied knowing her. Like, we were in shock. Like, we caught you. Like, here she is. How are you even going to deny that you know her when she's calling you by your first name? But she just kept laughing and he just kept denying it. It was extremely uncomfortable and super weird. She literally knew everything about him and even walked over and tried to be like all cutesy with him. And still, he denied. So we just ended up making her leave and I literally fought this man. My sister was upset and shocked, but I was way more furious than she was. It's one thing for people to hurt you, but not the people that you love. Luckily, she is done and no longer with him. At the end of the day, we need to know our self-worth and set high standards for the people that we're dating. Follow the girl that sent me the story and add me on Instagram and DM me if you have a story of your own. Story time. Someone tried to murder me on a school trip. So during my senior year, I started talking to this guy that we can call Tyler. And we all had to go on a school trip for a competition. During this, we had to stay in a hotel room and we were all assigned partners. Well, I didn't know this at the time, but I was actually assigned Tyler's ex-girlfriend. We can call her Penny. And when I found out she was his ex, I was like, you know what? Not a big deal. I'm probably just overthinking it, but she had a reputation for being psychotic. And I mean psychotic. Since we were all in close quarters, it didn't take her long to figure out that I was talking to her ex, and she went crazy on me. She basically threatened me by saying that if she ever saw me with him again, I wouldn't be coming home to my family. I still honestly didn't take her that seriously until the next day she saw us kissing, and she left the hotel room to buy throwing knives for when I got back. So when I reached the hotel room that day, she was yelling at me, threatening me, and then she took out one of the knives. Stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on Insta. Part 2 to me almost getting murdered on my school trip. So when Penny took out one of the knives, she literally threw it right at me. Somehow it only managed to land 5 inches from me and I was okay. So I took off running out of the hotel room. I immediately went to our director, and literally because her parents fund most of the band stuff, he straight up couldn't care less. I told my mom, who happened to work with the superintendent's wife, so she told her the whole story and gave my mom his phone number. Let's just say they were suspended and the teacher was fired. She swore up and down that her and Tyler were going to get back together, but it's been 3 years later and she's still crazy and he still hates her, and I'm still with him. So I guess the moral of the story is please take it seriously if someone threatens you, especially if it's a crazy ex. Love you guys. Follow my Insta and DM me if you have your own story that you want to share. So this is a story time about how I became best friends with the girl that my boyfriend cheated on me with. So when I met this guy, we'll call him Bronson, there was an immediate attraction. He was a Sagittarius, so he was super charming, life of the party, and it didn't take long for us to start talking. Well, it turned out he wasn't totally honest with me and he had a girlfriend. So I cut him off and didn't think twice about it. About a year later though, he came back into my life. He reached out after his breakup with his girlfriend and he asked if we could give things a real chance. Knowing the connection that we had, I said yes. And things were almost too perfect. We were taking cute photos for Instagram together. It didn't take long for him to move in. And we spent so much time together. He even talked about marriage with me in front of his mom. So it felt like things were going pretty smoothly. Until one night we were going to bed, his phone started blowing up. I grabbed it and it was a notification from a guy named Brad, which I thought was super weird. The texts were asking where he was and what he was doing. And eventually I just decided to pick up the phone, and it was a girl on the other end. Stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on Insta. Hey guys, so here's part 2 to becoming friends with the girl that my boyfriend cheated on me with. When there was a girl on the other end, I was like, what is this? And why are you calling my boyfriend's phone? And she was confused. She was like, boyfriend? I thought you were just being his supportive friend. It turns out him and his ex were still seeing each other. I was pissed and woke him up. And he had the nerve to try to tell me that she was being the crazy one. Like, obviously you've been seeing both of us. We're not that stupid. And she even sent me the screenshots to prove it. And he still had the nerve to deny it. I kicked him out of my house and we didn't talk for a while until one day he managed to work his way back in. I, being stupid, forgave him and decided to try things again. It happens to the best of us. Things seemed okay again, but he told me during our time apart he was couch surfing and he didn't actually have a place to stay, like he was just homeless. So I offered to let him live with me again. That night that he moved back in, I received a call from his ex. We'll call her Ashley. And Ashley goes, no, he's been living with me this entire time. Stay tuned for the last part and follow me on Instagram. Hey guys, here's part 3 to becoming best friends with the girl that my boyfriend cheated on me with. So that's when it all clicked that this man just couldn't ever be honest with me at all. From day one, and that there was no way that he was ever going to be honest with me again. So we might as well let things go down in flames. I told Ashley that she was welcome to come over. So she knocked on my door and I let her in while Bronson was still sleeping. And she walked straight to the back and woke him up. They immediately started fighting and running around my house, yelling and arguing with each other. I was so done at that point that I just sat in my kitchen with my cup of coffee and just watched. I just couldn't believe that I let a man get the best of me like this. And the best of both of us. Both of us were 100% done. No more. And we decided to become each other's support system to avoid getting back together with him. Nothing brings two girls together like a hate for a man. Now, not only is she my good friend, but she is also my roommate. Sometimes toxic men can bring two people together. Follow me on Instagram for more content, and if you have a story, DM me.